Hello and welcome to Breaking the Cycle. My name is Alan Hyde, and today we're joined by a special guest, Rick Bousquet. And I'm always wondering if I'm pronouncing his last name correctly, but we'll get to the bottom of that today. Breaking the Cycle Therapy is not just a podcast that you can turn into Thursdays at 12:30 p.m., but also a thriving therapy practice in the Dallas-Fort Worth area. We look forward to connecting with you, and every week we will be bringing on different professionals in the area and the professionals that work with our program to share valuable information with you guys about mental health, recovery from addiction, and the family disease of addiction. If any of these things relate to you today, we're glad you're here. Rick, thank you for joining us.
Hey, man. Thanks, Alan. I appreciate it.
Yeah.
It's great to be here.
Yeah, I mean, since you've joined us here to help us with the business development and some of just kind of the strategic planning and all these things, as well as our discussions on recovery coaching and our shared background and those passions, it's just been really nice to have you a part of the team. And it's really helped open my mind. And so I'm hoping today, as we pull some of the wisdom out of you, that we can open their minds to these kind of things and let them in on what we're doing.
Absolutely. And and I'll kind of get into this, but I'm a huge advocate of the mental health component. I've been through therapy myself, specifically CBT therapy, and it's made a world of difference for me. So yeah, I mean, what we're doing here at Breaking the Cycle Therapy and Podcast, with the support groups that are coming, with the community education, with the therapists, it's some remarkable stuff in our community, and there's so many people that are hurting, that need this, and I feel super confident this is going to be a great resource for our community.
Yeah. Yeah, and this area, Dallas-Fort Worth, is much like any metroplex kind of area in the U.S. that's heavily impacted by things like addiction. Lots of conversations around trauma and which ways to turn, where to turn, and what to look for. You've been on the forefront of helping relay those messages. What are some of the pain points you're seeing these days that need to be addressed?
For me, it all goes back to it doesn't matter, when we're talking about things like addiction, it doesn't matter if it's alcohol, if it's drugs, if it's food, if it's sex, if it's porn. It doesn't matter what it is. It's all a symptom. And so for me, in my perspective, in my personal experience, it was, in my particular case, understanding the generational trauma of alcoholism, understanding the core beliefs that were programmed in my brain at an early age, basically trauma related, that weren't good. And so as a result, people go through their lives, or at least I did. I've gone through my life with those core beliefs of, dealing with things like abandonment and rejection, and you're not enough, and you're not worthy, and you're not lovable, and the brain, man, it will work in mysterious ways to try to do things to get that external validation to kind of, I don't know, cope, deal with those kind of core beliefs. But again, getting back to the question, it's really changing your way of thinking, man. Really being able to understand, what you're feeling. Why you're feeling that, learning and making it a habit to reframe your thinking, because so many of us, we're just so apt to living in the what ifs, the worst case scenarios, the catastrophizing, and 99.9% of it's not true. It's never going to come true. But we live in that stuff, and so that's, for me, that's what I see is probably. Besides the spiritual component that we'll get into, which is even more critical, in my opinion, the whole thinking and that process of reprogramming your brain in a healthy way is really important.
Yeah, I was pondering a discussion that we had yesterday, and this is why I like, just being able to sit and chat with other professionals and people around the field. It's like, when we were talking about the power of cognitive behavioral therapy to restructure your mind, as I'm listening to you kind of just talk about a base way that a lot of people approach and work on these things, I was thinking about, with restructuring the way that we think around catastrophizing, self-sabotage, low self-esteem. It opens up all the branches in the ways that are powerful, beneficial, and necessary for people to sit down in therapeutic settings, whether that be a commitment to a 12-step program or
Absolutely.
to a therapist or at a church, right? It's like finding places where you can restructure the neural pathways and the conversations and the way that you're talking to yourself. You know, it's a lot of different routes. No one's right or wrong. It's just finding a fit for you, you know, and I was just kind of thinking about that.
And
as
those
we
are all
talked.
tools, man. Those are tools for processing and understanding. And it's really important to get other perspectives because a lot of times our own perspective is probably not the right one. You need other perspectives to dig deep. And some people, like me, have to go deeper than others. But yeah, that's key. And yeah, that support, that whether it's through a therapist, a support group, whether it's through good friends that you can be 100% honest with, that ability to be able to process that stuff and talk about it and discuss it is definitely crucial.
Yeah. Yeah. You know, it's the old adage, my best thinking got me here.
That's right.
And like you were touching on, I can definitely speak from personal experience. My best thinking prior to working things out with people who are wise was trouble.
Yeah.
I got myself into some predicaments, and I think a lot of people can relate to that, where certain areas of their life are in order, but then there are those areas interpersonally that are just a mess, chaotic, right? And then my best thinking makes it worse.
Oh, yeah.
Because we're given the messages that don't work of like, you know, you got to do this on your own, right? Don't show weakness, you know, find a solution and do that on your own. None of us do this alone.
100%. And that's, you know, I personally, I mean, honestly, I don't know anybody that is not going through something, that doesn't have something going on relatable to the things that you just said. So it's very, very common. But again, you know, then the question comes out to, you know, how are we going to handle it? How are we going to cope with it? How are we going to deal with it? And you've got choices. You can do it in a healthy way, or you can do it in an unhealthy way. They're both choices,
Right.
some better than others. So yeah, it's those are all aspects that are really important to it as well.
Yeah, you know, and as we talk about some of like, let's say like the deeper self-sabotage consequence areas in society, it's like, I was listening to this thing the other day, another podcast that was talking about how addiction, when viewed as a survival technique that no longer works for you, is our compassionate route. And I think just understanding any distress that you have, you found a behavior or a set of acting out behaviors, if you will, that helped you survive some really difficult times. And now when things are peaceful and the chaos still ensues, it was put so beautifully. It's like in the beginning it's a life vest, but now that life vest has turned to stone and you're sinking in the calm lake, right? It's like you got to take it off and find a new way to be at peace.
Absolutely. And that's what I talk about. You know, it's easy for people to live in that stuff. You got to be comfortable with not being comfortable in order to find the solution, the real solution. Not the temporary one, not the one that's it's gonna bring all kinds of bad things. But you're right. You know, there's a point there where it is a solution for a period of time, not a very good one.
Right.
But it's a solution.
Yeah, you know, it's there's some humor in it, as tragic as it is, but it's like good luck telling anybody that it's not a good solution, because at the time that's the only one they got. And as frustrating as that is a loved one who has had the lived experience walking with an alcoholic loved one, it's frustrating when you see that over a long period of time, this way that doesn't work is the only way they know. But the solution is detachment. The solution is not to attack and to tell them a better way. It's to get out of their way. And I just see that a lot in society, as I'm sure you do, working with mental health facilities too. A lot of it is positioning the messaging in a way to bring people in that gets out of their way and wraps around the support. you know? So now once they're in, if they do turn around to leave, they're still going to hear the support.
100%. I mean, super important. And again, same thing. Like, you know, I know with me and my personal, you know, I've had challenges with alcohol in the past. You know, I've been at that crossroads in the past. I've had consequences because of alcohol. But for me, again, you know, it's, you know, I have to make a choice. And for a very long time, I've made that choice is I'm going to live in the solution or I'm going to live in the problem. And for me, that solution is mind, body, and spirit. And there's a lot of things that go with that. But again, it's understanding. Me too. You know, I had and before I even say this, I want to say this. You know, I love my mother very much. I've never judged her. I've never been angry with her. But she passed away an alcoholic when I was 13 years old. I've got a couple of sisters that I love very much, but they had some form of addiction in their lives. I've got a brother who, and it's his story to tell. It may or may not be an active addiction. So yeah, both sides. You know, I've learned a lot about addiction, but more so, you know, addiction is one thing. Recovery, that's what I choose to live in. And whether it's, you know, 12-step programs with Al-Anon, working with other people in Al-Anon, those kind of things, again, you get the different perspectives, you get the different stories, you get to the meat of what recovery actually is. And, you know, it's mind, body, and spirit. And there's several things that fall into those categories, in those three things. But for me, it's all critical daily.
Daily is the hope, and not to be perfect with it, but as we break it down today, maybe let's walk through and see where the conversation takes us. Let's start with mind. Right.
Yep.
We've talked a little bit about the cognitive behavioral, both offline and now online in this discussion. Let's talk about the mind. What are some, you know, kind of daily practices that could work for people that you've seen, right? Because you do some recovery coaching and you work with these facilities and see a ton of people come in and out. What's working for people?
Well, and again, I can't talk for other people. I can talk for myself. I can talk about generalities, because as you know, people that are truly in addiction, they've got to find their way, man. And there's not, you know, there's not just one answer. They've got to go through this process of self-discovery, of suffering enough to get to that point where you find the tools that you need to get you out, of that mess. But so for the mindfulness, again, it is definitely throughout the day. I've got to be and it's habit. At first it was work, but now it's habit to throughout the day when I'm starting to feel a certain way. Irritable, angry, which I never get angry, but irritable, sad, whatever the case, you know, I can pause. You know, we talk about pause, process, and pray. You know, I take a minute. Okay, what's going on here? I process what's going on. I say a quick prayer, and then I'm able from that point to reframe my thinking. You know. And because again, one part of my brain is going to take me way out to left field. And I don't want to go there. So I've got to reframe it with positive perspectives, self-affirmations. I've got to be positive with it. And then, as you know, that the way you think also then has a direct reflection on your actions. And so doing those things on a consistent basis, it makes it, like I said, you know, for me, it's become a habit now. I don't even really think about it. And I notice, you know, throughout the day that's what I'm doing. And so that helps me tremendously, just, you know, the reframing on the mind part of it.
Yeah, I think especially as we're talking about restructuring our mind, it took a lot of really wise people. For me, I was raised in a Christian home. You know, I grew up in Southern California, kind of a low income area. My dad had faced some legal consequences, and so my early run-ins with the church was helping him do some construction type community service work at this church down the street. and there was a lot of judgment. It was like, it was known why he was there. It was known what we were doing. And I saw kind of like the sneers and the snickers. And so I had this, like, any good codependent Al-Anon, right? Growing up in an alcoholic home does, they were the enemy.
Yeah.
Right. And then when I get into my recovery journey, my like mental health, it took a lot of really wise people to open my mind to prayer.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
And for those who are maybe secular or atheist, we want to find the merging of like meditation and prayer as a really good doorway, because I was leaning away from God. Even though I believed in God, I didn't have any practice, and it took a lot of wise people to share what you were just sharing, of like pause, process, pray. And one of the things that really worked for me of like rewiring my brain, because I was a spinner at night. I'd get home from work and spin. I would recite the serenity prayer, right? God grant me the serenity. And I would recite it, and I kid you not, 1,000 times until my brain would just shut up.
100%. And, you talk about that serenity prayer, that, when it comes to the mind, for me, that's another critical component, because, throughout the day, I have to not just say it, but live it. And it's one thing to things that you can't control. You'll hear people say, well, just let it go, just let it go. You've got to that next level when you can let things go and you're at peace, and you feel that peace with it. You're at that next level when you have a problem that you can control, but you live in the solution, not the problem. Because there was a time in my life where I would bathe in the problem. All the worst case stuff. I mean, it would be crazy. And my mind would go absolutely insane in left field, running through all these scenarios. I don't do that anymore. I live in the solution. And okay, we whether it's me, a staff, a client, an organization I'm working with, okay, we know what the problem is. Now we're going to live in the solution. What's the solution? And it's that simple. But it takes action. It takes some work to be able to get to that point. And I'm just grateful. I'm getting there. Nothing's ever perfect.
Right.
Life happens, but by and large, I'm very grateful for where I'm at, in that component as well.
Yeah. Well, there's the lived experience of peace, right? It's like anybody, I think, in modern day society can relate to perfectionism, right? And wanting things to be perfect. Well, I'm seeking this work so that things will just be okay. It's like, well, things will be okay more often maybe than they were, but it's never always going to be okay. And it's like when we're putting together strategic plans, as we were talking about mind, body, spirit, clicking into the mind of pause, process, prayer. It's always interesting that the natural progression is another acronym that you'll hear a lot of times in recovery circles of AAA, right? Awareness, acceptance, action, right? And when we're talking about the mind, right, that Rick is highlighting for us, and we're exploring deeper, without the action, you may have moments that you feel peace that just kind of happen in life, but without the action, it's going to be few and far between.
It doesn't work.
Yeah.
I mean, it doesn't work, and that's the fact of it. Without the action, I like to say, let me know how that works out for you.
Yeah.
Because it's not. And then going back, to the mind too, I know with me specifically, like I kind of alluded to earlier, was, the core values or core beliefs that were programmed in your head. I always, for a long time, up until just several years ago, I always wondered, why am I the way I am? Why do I put so much pressure on myself needlessly? Why am I so uber competitive that, like, for example, when my kids were young, I couldn't even play a game of Candyland without getting eaten up with anxiety because I had to win. It's messed up. And so there's a lot of things that came from those core beliefs at a young age that I just never understood. Why am I this way? And then again, once I went through therapy and began to be aware of, again, those core beliefs that were programmed in my brain at an early age, and how it's affected my entire life. it's pretty powerful stuff because now I know, okay, now all of it started to make sense as I went through my whole life, my 20s, my 30s, my 40s, things that happened, things that I did. It all started to make sense to me. So yeah, that's all part of and you just, again, I said it, the awareness part. Yeah. The awareness, the acceptance, and then the action.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, and in any good therapeutic setting, any good recovery setting, any good church recovery kind of like healing process, wherever you're seeking it, is going to have you take inventories of yourself. Yeah. One of the ones that I knew I struggled with, but it really wasn't until awareness built of like daily looking at things and then having years of self introspection. That then when I reapproached a true inventory, I saw how self-righteous I had been in life, right? And that was one of them where like a light bulb went off of like, I imagine there's a lot of people out there in my life over the years who love me, who know, right? It's like, man, I mean, this guy could never be wrong, And today it's like one of the most powerful things in my life that I've really valued coming to is like, I don't know anything better than another adult in this life about situations that we're in. Yeah. I have my perspectives that I'm a quote unquote expert in, but even in that realm, there are people who know aspects of it that I don't know. Yeah. And if I'm not listening, I can get real self-righteous. Yeah. And that's a problem.
And absolutely. And that's one of the big things that when I talk to other guys and families, that self-righteous, that pride, that ego is a big thing for me. And also I know for a lot of people, and I'm sure some people out there can relate to this too. Mine was always fear. I my whole life I lived in fear. Yeah. Of what, I don't know. Of the unknown, it's absolutely insane. It's insanity. Because I can think back and like you talk about being retrospective, if I were to get in an argument with my wife about, the bank account, it has nothing to do with how much money is in the bank account. There's a fear of financial insecurity for some reason. Another thing that, I'm not proud of, but, it is what it is. I can't change the past is like my kids who are adults now, man, I raised them, and it was nothing but fear. If I got upset, with my daughter because she wasn't home exactly at 10 o'clock, it wasn't that I was angry because, she was disobeying or whatever. It was fear-based. Everything was fear-based, It didn't matter what it was. Everything was fear-based. And so learning, and again, you kind of, we, and I'm sure we'll talk about the spiritual part next, but, that spiritual part, choosing faith over fear and going through that process is something that really helped me as well.
Yeah. And I think that's a good segue too, because a lot of what we're doing here, like when I first started, getting a physical location, hiring multiple therapists, it's like in the beginning, well, I grew up in a financially desperate kind of situation with, not to out anybody, but that was just the fact. And then you have the way you present yourself in society and you're hoping people don't know and all the shit that's fear-based. Right. And so starting this, it's like, well, there's a lot of prayer that goes into like, hey, God's got it. And I didn't have any of that prior to program. Like you were saying, everything was fear-based. Yeah. And it shows up in these little ways, right? Like my significant other and her 3 kids who I've come in and become a figure, just a healthy male figure in their lives. We'll be getting them down and ready for bed because school is in the morning. And I'll have those thoughts of like, well, when I was a kid, you didn't get up out of bed and it was because of fear. You didn't know right, what the consequence with mom and dad was going to be, but you knew it was going to be pretty rotten. Right. Yeah. And thank God for saner minds, right? I love my parents and there's certain aspects of discipline that people do their best. But I'm very glad to be positioned today in a place of, I'm not going to try to rule the bedtime with fear. I'm going to try to rule it with compassion. Right. Hey, you see my eyes are getting red too. Right. And I'm not going to go to sleep till you go to sleep. Right. Because you're going to be coming and waking me up. So let's figure this out.
Absolutely.
And there is something spiritual about navigating through fear, which I imagine will be a thread that just as we naturally talk about it comes out. But letting go of things, as you were talking about, in the perspective of our mind, then takes another true action step when we start talking about our spiritual lives in the unseen.
At 100%.
Yeah.
But I know for me, that the whole spiritual component is critical. And, in doing this podcast today, if I don't know what people may or may not get out of this, but for me, this is, my spirituality is the most important, critical component of everything. Mm-hmm. My personal relationship. And again, this, there's a difference between religion and spirituality. Mm-hmm. And my spirituality is my one-on-one relationship with God in the Christian sense, and my Lord and Savior, his son, Jesus. And so for me, that's paramount. And, I cannot start my day without prayer meditation every morning. I use that time to get myself prepared for the day. I use that time, it's very important for me, again, on a daily basis, to understand that I'm living in God's will, mm-hmm. his plan, his purpose, and his timing, mm-hmm. not mine. Mm-hmm. It's very important for me to understand that I have got to get out of the way and allow God to work in me and through me. Mm-hmm. I have got to, take action in the sense that I have got to show and demonstrate a certain amount of trust and faith every single day, of reliance and obedience in them, in God and Jesus as they guide me through this day. It's those kind of things. And it shows, man. It's, you become at peace with things that, in the past were very painful or uncomfortable. It's great waking up every day. And your first conscious thoughts of the day are, number one, thank you, God. Number two is, who am I going to be able to help today? Mm. That alone is absolutely huge. Mm. And so, again, being able to feel the changes, being able to, even like with clients, you were talking about, kind of your situation with building this practice up here and the things that you went through. I'm the same way, whether it's clients, whether it's another CEO or executive director position in the past, whatever it was, I don't pray for jobs and stuff like that anymore. That's not my prayer. My prayer is to legitimately find peace and be accepting and surrendering to where God wants me. That's what I want. Yeah. I want to be where God wants me, and I want to be able to do, allow him to work in me and through me, to again serve my purpose, whatever that is. So the whole spiritual component, and again, choosing faith over fear, and again, that's just the opposite of fear. I mean, fear is nothing but a lack of faith,
right?
In my opinion. And so, it's truly probably the most important component in my life.
Yeah, and it's it's just a consistent part of any conversation too, even in areas where people deny it. It's like, well, there's evidence all around us that things work out outside of your direct actions, and that happens whether you believe or not. And so that's one of the areas that's always pointed me back to a sense of faith, is like life has a way of working out. And also when it doesn't, I'm not God, so I'm not going to try to understand why that doesn't work out and this does. It's like trying to, start a business, right? It's like we had a lot of roadblocks before I ever had this location, before we could ever do the podcast, where it was like, well, why is the state roadblocking, all the different variations of the name when I'm playing their game, right?
Yeah.
Why are there these little kind of logistical roadblocks that's going to make me wait 7 months before it even makes sense to go buy a physical location? Well, I can see now as time has gone on, it's like, well, I had just finished my dissertation. I imagine God's looking like, hey, man, take a break. Yeah. That was some of it in the beginning of like, I was ready to go. And it's like, that's my old shit. Yeah. Right. So I remember saying a prayer like, hey, God, in your time, show me how you want this practice, this next challenge to be presented to me. I like challenges, but just because I like and want something doesn't mean right now is the right time. And it came to fruition in a time that was so much better for me that I couldn't have predicted back then. No. Such is the way life works.
You can't. And again, in working and talking to people and things like that, you know, the sooner, and again, this is just my opinion because of lived experience, the sooner people can understand that it's not your job to try to understand, we can't. We're not built. Our human brain is not built to process and understand every little thing. It's just not. And that's not my job. I mean, that's not my job to try to understand what happens, why it happens, when it happens. That's not my job.
Right.
My job is, you know, as far as I'm concerned, is to do the next right thing, do what's in front of me, and again, have that reliance, dependence, trust, and faith in God, and knowing everything's going to be okay. But me, like I'm sure most people out there, you know, if we think back to our entire lives, you know, I guarantee every single one of us have had situations happen where we were like, dang, that sucks, or I didn't want this, or, you know, screw this, or whatever the case. But then a year later, in God's time, things miraculously changed or something happened, and you were like, wow, maybe this did happen, you know, as a result of this and this and this. And I believe that everything happens for a reason.
Yeah.
There's a plan in place. Everything happens for a reason. And guess what? I'm not God, and it's not my job to try to understand it because I can't. And you will drive yourself crazy trying to. So again, just have some faith and trust and live in that. And again, you'll find that peace.
Yeah, you know, and on these components too, because, you know, obviously on social media, these kind of conversations that we've ever had on the podcast will get some interesting comments. And one of the aspects I always hold up is like, when I'm having these conversations with clients, and this is where I've had a lot of success too, especially spiritually with clients, is like, it's not an argument. I'm not telling you what you have to do.
No, absolutely.
It's an option for you. Yeah. If you tell me that it's not for you, I'm not going to fight you. That's fine, man. That's your journey.
100%.
However, what I share with clients is this, is like, you've hired me to do a job, and part of my job is to hold up all of the aspects in what we're exploring. This is one of them where there's too many case studies, too much research, too many statistics around this stuff working for what, you know, whatever the specific thing that we're working on that they're struggling with, that if I didn't hold it up for you, there's a part of my job that I'm not doing. Sure. Now, the way you approach that, define it, and work with it, you're the expert, right?
Absolutely.
And you let me know so that as a therapist, I can help you find tools around that.
Yeah.
But if we don't discuss it, then there's a whole part and aspect of my job I'm not doing. And if there's anything with this, and even as I hear you share too, the same message is like, however you want to define it, however you want to work with it, that's on you, Bubba, right? But we'll support you in those things. And the hope, I think for me, like in my own personal life, is that I remember one crucial component in my spirituality is that whatever it is, if it exists or not, right, I believe it does, but I know for a foregone conclusion that it ain't me.
Yeah.
You know, it's not me, man. Because anytime I tamper with shit, I miss the mark.
Yeah.
And anytime I've let go, wonderful things have happened. Bad things happen too. And that's I think, a beautiful part of life as well. Unfortunately, bad things happen, good things happen. That's not where we need to spend our efforts. Our efforts is in what you were touching on earlier with the mind, is being in a flow and a state of peace with what's happening, at least as far as I can see.
Absolutely. And again, if you have that faith and that trust and that peace, you know, even when things don't go your way, even when things are not perfect, it's dude, I can't remember the last time I had a bad day. Honestly. Now, that doesn't mean life's perfect and things go my way every day. And no, far from it. Trust me. Yeah. But I haven't had a bad day, you know, peace wise. Yeah. You know, because it's all good. Everything happens for a reason. It may be a growth opportunity for me. It may be a learning opportunity for me. But at the end of the day, I know everything's going to be okay.
Yeah. Well, and that's that restructuring of like, here's our flow, and the ways that we work with people is like from the spirituality to the mind, from the mind to the spirituality, is that I can have a bad situation right? Quote unquote, or just something that's uncomfortable or I really don't like or really chaps me in a way that's going to stick for a moment, it doesn't make it a bad day.
Yeah.
And see, that's where a lot of clients come in and the report in the beginning of the session, I had an awful day. I had an awful weekend.
Yeah.
It's like, well, let's reframe that. Let's restructure it. You had some awful moments, but the sun still came out. You know, you were still waking up and going about your life. These are blessings. How do we focus on that? You know?
Living a life of gratitude, man, every day. You know, again, we talked about that first conscious thought in the morning.
Yeah.
You know, having that first conscious thought being one of gratitude. You know, hey, I'm alive. I get to embrace another day. You know, I used to be one of these guys that was like, man, God, just help me get through this day. No, who wants to live like that?
Yeah.
I want to get through the day. I want to be able to embrace the day.
Yeah.
Embrace the gift that He's given me. I want to be able to be of service to others. I mean, it's living a life of gratitude, and even the small things. You know, it doesn't. A roof. I've got food. I've got a dependable vehicle. You know, I can see my body's work. I'm somewhat healthy. You know, I'm able to go to the gym. I'm able to, you know, whatever. I mean, there's so many things to be grateful for. And again, but like we talked about, you've got a choice. What are you going to live in? Are you going to live in the gratitude, or those handful of things that may not be ideal and they're challenging? Or are you going to live in that stuff? Guess what? It's your choice.
Yeah. Yeah. And oh, by the way, as you make that decision, you're also, let's say you decide I'm going to live in feeling awful and looking at the world in those ways. Now you're also going to live with those who've made that choice too. Whether you've made a choice to look at it from gratitude or not, you're still going to have to interact with those who are not.
Yeah.
Right. I wonder which choice would help you navigate those relationships better and with peace and love and compassion, right? It's like if gratitude is the approach, detachment often is the result from others who view their day as awful, right? These things all intertwine, but one of the ways that was pitched to me really early that I had latched onto as a piece of wisdom was in the 6th and 7th step and 12-step recovery around addressing and turning over your character defects. And someone really wise that I trust in my life had shared that not only can your defects become your assets, right, pretty quickly, right, on a spectrum, your assets can become your defects if you're not careful.
Sure.
But the driving point that really brought me to a place of gratitude is that if you learn to trust the process of life and trust God in that, then other people's defects and your defects will be utilized for a greater good.
Yeah.
And I've seen that more times than I can count, where it's like somebody else's defect in the way I perceive it was actually teaching me a lesson. And I know my behaviors have taught plenty of lessons in the way of my defects. Whether that's someone who needs to move on out of my life to find a better path for themselves, or to find a better way to stand up to a 6'5" guy and voice their opinions. And I'm thankful for some of these more mature and recovery-based types of situations. It allows me as a big personality to get out of people's way, to let them stand 10 toes forward and tell me their perspectives and to hear them. Because my defects in the past wouldn't let me do that. And there were lessons to be learned from that have brought me to this place today that are very fruitful. So I'm thankful. I don't live in regret or remorse or guilt around those things anymore. I'm grateful that I did have to learn those lessons, because I don't know how else I would have learned them. You know, I didn't have parents teaching me those things.
No, man, I agree. And you, I mean, you kind of said, you know, you said something that kind of stuck out to me was the fact that, you know, if you live in gratitude, if you're around people that are constantly negative, you might disassociate from them, correct?
Detach,
detach from them. And guess what? But in some cases, that's not a bad thing. In some cases, that can be a very healthy thing, because you know, depending on the relationship, you know, if they're not contributing to your well-being, into your health. I mean, why would you want to be around somebody that way? Again, dependent on the relationship and the dynamics that go around that. But, you know, it may not be a bad thing to disengage from people that you know, are you know, still in that space of just not gratitude. Everything's, you know, a Debbie Downer kind of thing.
Yeah, you know, I think humorous way we can put it too in the therapy realms is like there's a reason why the days and weeks after every major holiday are the biggest moments for intakes is because people don't know how to detach from situations that they have no business being involved in. And I shared this in a talk the other day of a progression of like what has the progression of love looked like over the last 6 years for me. It's like, well, the first year love looked like going to a holiday outing. Things get chaotic. Everybody's screaming. Things are getting heated. Everybody's drunk. And it's like, well, I've overstayed my welcome. I hope we can do this again next year. Right. And then it's like in year 2, it's like, okay, well, I've been introduced to some wisdom. It's a freckle past the hair. The alcohol's coming out. I had a great time. I'll see you guys next time. Then year 3, it's like, well, hey, we know the drill. When the freckles pass the hair, I'm out of here, but let's have a great time. Wow, that was actually really nice. I hope we can do this again. For me, year 4 was moving to a new state. So it was an invitation of like, hey, come celebrate the holidays here, but I'm going to celebrate it with the people who don't scream and get drunk and throw shit. And some of those people didn't join. And then year 5, it's like, wouldn't you know, I'm in a better place of peace. I find a partner who aligns with that. I've got relationships in my life. It's peaceful. Year 6, we enjoy peace. It's like, this is a progression. And I'm not saying it's 6 years for people. I'm just saying like, you give yourself some time and peace starts to set into your interpersonal relationships in a way that leads to lasting companionship, lasting relationships.
I agree.
And without it, you're overstaying your welcome in situations with people that you feel obligated, right?
And again, it's not healthy for you.
Yeah.
Self-care, man.
Yep.
You know, very important as well, that self-care.
Yeah. You know, and a client had asked me the other day of like, why is it the people closest to us that have the hardest time accepting our changes or our perspectives and these kind of things? And it's precisely that. It's not even so much that it's our loved ones who can't embrace who we are. It's because you're not letting go. It's you're not taking the action to detach. If you're changing, of course, that's going to change the way you approach and engage. And if somebody else doesn't like it, you know, I always joke with my clients, and I'm pretty straightforward in these ways, but like if somebody else doesn't like the positive changes you're making, they can get fucked. I don't care. You know, it's like, that's not going to work for you anymore.
I agree. Again, and it goes back to people pleasing. It goes back to, you know, caring what other people think. And I think, you know, throughout this process, again, mind, body, spirit, the more you go through that process, the less and less you care about what other people think. It doesn't matter. You know, this is between me and God. You know, this is about me and my health. And, there's some very unhealthy ways to be selfish. There's also some very healthy ways that you have to be selfish. When it comes to your peace, and you know, dealing with or not dealing with dysfunction or toxicity or codependency or, you know, and again, you know, dealing with those things, you know, in a way that again doesn't affect your peace.
Yeah. Which is, you know, it's in this realm of taking care of yourself in a holistic, like mind, body, spirit manner. We really do have to grapple with and define the difference for ourselves, and to hold up a clinical perspective is like the difference between selfishness and self-centeredness. Selfishness is, I'm going to meet my needs, my adult needs as a priority. Self-centeredness is, I'm not going to meet any of my needs. I'm going to actually require you to meet those needs. And I don't even really know if I want those needs met by you, but I can manipulate you into doing it. And if you do it, fuck it. Why not? Why don't you do it? That's self-centeredness. And there's a real freedom in being able to be in a healthy place of selfishness that doesn't impede on other people's lives, because they know, well, hey, this person's going to take care of their needs. They're probably even reasonably going to take care of their wants, which allows us to share in some shared experiences. That's a healthy, selfish experience. I hope that the people in my life are being selfish in ways that matter.
Yeah.
You know?
And it's not forced either way, one way or the other. It's not forced. It's just, it's almost like a natural, healthy way to, deal with those relationships, with situations, circumstances, without having to fight it or force it or anything. It's just kind of a natural thing that can come upon us.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Let's make a shift into maybe talking a little bit about the body.
Okay.
I'll plant this seed and let you run with it and see what you think of. Like, one of the ways that I think a common conversation and even really misconception in the realm of mental health is like, it's just all about fitness, right? It's important. We need to take care of our bodies. But one of the most crucial aspects of our mental health when it comes to our body is our actions following the mind and spirit. So when I was told to pray, it wasn't, hey, go and just pray. It was, get on your knees. Find a place. My sponsor was really good with me in the beginning of, set up a spot in your home where you can pray and walk to the spot and just say hello to the spot. It's like, sounds weird enough to work, know?
Yeah.
And I resisted it at first, but when I did it, I would walk in and be like, hey, prayer spot, it's humorous. I'm a goofy dude.
Yeah.
It started to work.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden I'm on my knees praying to my understanding of God. And it happened in pretty short order. For other people, it's like you got to go clean behind the toilet because you got to get on your knees to get back there. And while you're down there, you might as well pray.
Yeah.
But I kind of want to plant that seed and see like what other perspectives maybe you would add to that and just kind of your experiences with those things.
Yeah. I mean, obviously, when it comes to the body, there's different things, gym time is important for me. The physical fitness, like you said, is important. But then also the other things, so even just as simple as good rest. I mean, it's very important. Again, mind, body, spirit, that holistic approach to making sure you're getting good, solid sleep each and every night because your body needs it to recharge. The meditation and the prayer stuff, I know I personally, I've got my favorite God meditation music, and I just use that. I get comfortable. Lay down, do some breath work, and then I just get into prayer meditation. And part of that is, the prayer aspect, but then also it's a lot of it's being still. And I'm not talking about physically, I'm talking, mindful stillness and learning, which is something recently that I've been trying to really focus on, is learning how to listen. Because you can't convince me that every single random thought in my head are my own thoughts. I truly believe that, somehow, some way, whether it's God, the Holy Spirit, whatever it is, I pray every day, guide me, direct me. And I believe He's doing that. But I've got to learn to listen. And so I know that's been an aspect for me that I've really been focusing on is the whole listening part.
Yeah, I think that's a part of the body too that gets forgotten, is how physical that is. A listening skill. It kind of starts with, in my mind, this is maybe how I would just follow it as one man on this corner of the internet, is I need to keep my feet and my head in the same room at the same time. That requires me to monitor my ego. I need to be in a healthy enough spot so I don't feel like I have to fart or have the bubble guts while I'm listening to someone. Have I, eaten, rested, used the restroom? Can I be present? Right. And these are all skills too. As funny as it sounds, it's like, as a therapist, I can't be sitting there trying to listen to someone if I have to piss. I can't do it. I gotta go. But it's like my feet and my head and my feet are in the room at the same time, and my body is taken care of so that my ears will work.
That's right.
And then when it comes in, it's like, well, here's the spiritual component. Is over 13 years of practicing therapy, I have sheerly lost count of the amount of times whether it's clients, other therapists, or other professionals in the field, have impacted me in profound ways because these were on, and I wasn't blocking it with my ego. My life has changed. I was a different young man than anything that resembles what I am now, and it's because I listen.
That's right. Yeah. And that's a skill, man. That truly is a skill. And I would add to that, along with being able to listen, and not being able to sit there and think about what your response is going to be. You're actually listening. I would add to that, and I just lost my train of thought.
It's because you weren't thinking about what your response was going to be.
I know. I was listening. Anyway, I lost my train of thought on that one. But I mean, it's a critical component and part of it.
Yeah, I think it's a good one to call out too, because I think a lot of people, and this is just in my experience, they'll come into like a therapeutic setting and they think they have to leave a therapist. It's like in my personal life, I do what you're sharing. I don't listen to respond, but in therapy, I do.
Yeah.
Even on the podcast, I do.
Yeah. And that's your job.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you got to be able to respond.
Yeah. And so I encourage people, like, you don't have to leave here with skills that I've honed over 13 years. Yeah. That's not our objective.
Yeah.
If the best that we can do is to just listen, right? And be in the room, because there's all the kind of things in relationships of like, you can look like you're listening, and I can teach you how to do that too.
Yeah.
But when you're actually listening, you don't have to say anything.
No.
Most people don't even want you to say anything.
Yeah.
That's the tricky part with like couples therapy is like, they don't actually want you to respond because they don't want your fucking help.
Yeah.
They're an adult. They want you to listen.
Yeah. But again, you're right. And again, that's what I was going to say a minute ago was having that ability that I think is few and far between, having that ability to actually be able to respond versus react. Because those are two different completely things when it comes to, it doesn't matter if it's a conversation, it doesn't matter if it's a situation or circumstance that's going on, having that ability to not just listen, but then also being able to respond, to relax and respond accordingly versus reacting to it. Because that reaction is going to be, it's probably not going to be good. But if you can learn to respond to it accordingly, then it's always more objective. It's the way to go.
Yeah. These are these little tidbits, and I'm glad that you had brought up today for us to kind of double click into it more around mind, body, spirit.
Yeah.
Reactions to the things that you're hearing dips into our body, right? Mm-hmm. We would use a term therapeutically of your somatic experience. Yeah. And for those who don't know what that is, it's just the way that your body is responding. Like when somebody says, I feel anxious, and then a therapist follows up and asks, where in your body are you feeling it? Well, I feel it in the tightness of my chest or the breath or my gut, right? The fear. That somatic experience is a desired need to connect with your body to then move into the mind and balance the thoughts to then graduate into something spiritual. And we know, both with the research, but also just observing human behavior, that seems to be the path no matter what direction you take to get there. Yeah.
That is perfectly said, man.
It's like this is, as I'm hearing all your pieces, this is where we're at, right?
That's exactly right, man. Perfectly said.
Yeah. Yeah. And for those listening along with us today, I mean, that's been our progression. One of the things I've been praying about this a lot lately, but just also thinking about it and talking to good people about it, is when I was starting the hiring process, I was only looking for therapists. You saw the post. I'm running this, but I've never run something like this before on my own. So I was looking for therapists.
Yeah.
And then your resume came through and you took a shot, and we had some interactions before, but you laid it out.
Yeah.
And it was on my heart. And I was like, you know what? I can't do it all. I think this would be a good conversation to have. And it manifested from there.
Yeah.
that has to be something bigger than me, you know?
I agree.
I wasn't looking for it. And then there you were, and you put it out there. It's like, well, yeah, we did the footwork, right?
Yeah, yeah.
But something told both of us to give it a shot.
100%.
And it's working out.
It's, like this, and to me, that's what I consider one of those God things. You know, everything happens for a reason.
Yeah.
And I still don't know what that reason is.
Yeah, I have no idea.
Who's no? But you know what? I'm excited about the journey.
Yeah.
I'm excited to see what transpires. Yeah. I'm excited to see what happens and what we're able to build, and our therapist Kyla and April coming on, and you know, just all the things that we're doing. Again, to have that presence in this community, to provide, you know, mental health support for people in our community, whether they're veterans or first responders or, you know, depression, anxiety, addiction, recovery. I mean, couples, you know, just there's so many people. And I think we're at a good point with that, Alan, because, you know, you know, being with NAMI, being the executive director over at NAMI, the National Alliance of Mental Illness, you know, one of the biggest things was advocating on the behalf of trying to get rid of stigmas associated with mental health. And I see it. I mean, there's still a long way to go, but there's been some progress with that. And I think the more, you know, the mental health component opens up to our communities, and the more it's accepted, and the more people understand how important it is in our personal lives, our professional lives, and our relationships with everything, the more apt they're going to be to kind of, again, seek out solutions on how they can better themselves in those areas of what they may be struggling with. Yeah.
You know, and no matter how big or small or whatever our platform is, that's the consistent feedback we've got with doing things like this. And that's been a mission of mine around really anything that relates to tangible growth in life. You know, I used to watch these like life coaches and motivational speakers over and over and over back in my baseball college days. But the one thing I always resonated in human behavior was the tangible ways people seek to grow and be truthful about reality. Right. And there's something around breaking down barriers and stigmas that is just, it's cutting through the way society would talk to you about it and just being truthful about what's the reality. It's like an alcoholic's not a monster. They're not evil. They do dumb shit, you know, and that makes it hard to realize it as a disease. That's all fine, but let's talk about it without being assholes. You know?
I agree.
And that pertains to our misunderstandings about depressions and anxieties and the ways that it gets talked about that could better be served in conversations like this that point us back to the realities of how to take care of ourselves. And it really is that simple. And we could all get along a little better. Now, we're not going to all get along a little better in this country, but we can move a little bit closer.
Oh, yeah.
You know?
And that's the goal. That's the goal. And you had said, you know, you had talked about, you know, the leadership, you know, gurus out there, the Tony Robbins and all that kind of stuff. You know, one of the misconceptions too that's out there that I wish people really understood as well was, you know, like the 12 steps of Al-Anon. People don't understand those 12 steps have nothing to do with alcohol. If it's NA, Narcotics Anonymous, it has nothing to do with drugs. It has nothing to do with overeat. You know, every support group out there that's a 12-step, they have the same 12 steps. It has nothing to do with the symptom. It has to do with how to live life. And exactly what we're talking about, mind, body, and spirit, how to live life, to find that peace, to let go of that control that we have no control over. It's, you know, letting go of the outcomes, getting out of the outcomes business and just doing the next right thing and doing what's in front of you and allowing your higher power, in my case, God, to be in control of those outcomes. So that's a big thing for me too. I wish people would understand that those 12 steps, every single person on this planet could use those 12 steps to improve their life. And again, it has nothing to do with whatever symptom you may be dealing with. I've known people that have used the 12 steps to get off social media.
Oh yeah, or to stop
Yeah,
smoking and,
yeah.
and this, that, and the third.
They,
And it's because they are purely a spiritual base. It's
100,
about
it is.
God. That's the
It
veil,
is.
right? And one way I've heard it is, right, the bottle is the symbol, right? The drinking is the symptom, but the problem was always acting out. That's the problem. And the biggest form of acting out in a human experience is pulling yourself into a place of isolation away from other
Oh, yeah,
people
yeah, yeah.
and God. That is the greatest form of acting out. It has nothing to do with the symptom. That's just a symbol. That's just
Absolutely.
you broadcasting that you have a problem.
And it goes back to what we just talked about. You have no idea, and you're not able to process any emotions. You're not able. You're thinking at that moment rather than reframing that positive perspective. You're living in guilt, shame, self pity. You're living in that crap.
Yeah.
And then you act out.
Yeah.
And when you act out, that's it. And you know, it's sad, but it's our reality. A lot of people are comfortable
Oh yeah.
in that,
Yeah.
in the shit. They're comfortable in it, man.
Yeah.
And that's why, you know, I've dealt with a lot of people who, whether it's family members or even people, you know, in addiction, that you know, life is going absolutely great after 6-8 months and they relapse. It's because things become, they're not, their body, their mind, everything about them is like, something's off here. What's going on?
Yeah.
You know, I'm happy. I'm at peace. Things are going great. I've got relationship back. Work is going great. Money's in the bank. But everything's going great, you know, and it's uncomfortable. So you got to learn to again, get comfortable with being uncomfortable.
Right.
And that's, again, just another part of the process.
Yeah, stretch and grow, take your space in the world. And that is uncomfortable, and you can expect it to be uncomfortable, but we want to take the expectation out of it as best you can and just know, right? Know and trust that it will be
It is.
a growth discomfort. You're going to be in pain, and then you're going to be at peace, and then you're going to be in pain, and then you're going to be at peace. And this is just the way it goes. But, you know, you roll around in the mud, you're going to get covered in shit.
Yeah.
And that does get comfy because when you're covered in all the shit, maybe you don't want to get up and deal with getting it all over the place. And I understand that.
Yeah.
All right. But we have to, and we got to get on with it.
I agree. 100%.
Any last messages that you would have for our audience as they are here captive listening to you?
Yeah. Again, you know, I hope that people can relate to some of the stuff I've talked about, and I'm sure I'll be on again and maybe get into some more details about some things specifically. But most importantly, what I want to talk about and just kind of leave the audience with is what we're doing here at Breaking the Cycle, Therapy and Podcast. You know, for the podcast, you've done a tremendous job with the diversity of your guests, dealing with mental health and addiction and all kinds of things. We've now got some really good advertising rates. So we're going to be able to start promoting and highlighting people, organizations, treatment centers, whatever the case. You know, we're going to be able to start highlighting those through our advertising campaigns. One of the things that drew me to Breaking the Cycle was on your social media page. It has there's no sugarcoating here. And so that's one of the things that I want to stress too with Breaking the Cycle, whether you're dealing with a therapist, if you're in a support group, when we go out and do community education on a variety of mental health topics, there's no sugarcoating it. We're going to keep things real.
Yeah.
Doesn't mean it has to be confrontational. Doesn't mean it has to be super raw, but we're going to keep things real. Because we would be doing people a disservice if we weren't. So, yeah, there's a lot of great things going on with Breaking the Cycle in the support groups and the community education and our new therapists, and the expansion of this podcast. So, yeah, I just want to encourage people to start following us on all our social media channels. We use that as a communication tool. Yes, we're going to have good content on there, but we're also going to use it as a communication tool. So like us on all those, Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, YouTube, all those great things. But yeah, it's a great time for breaking the cycle, and I just want to invite our community and those that are listening to join us.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, Rick's contact information is in the bio. You'll be seeing Rick around in all of the discussions in our community events. So, big things to come. I have a question that I ask everybody when they're first time on the guest, first time guest on the show. If we were going to build a mental health amusement park, you get to build a ride there. What color would it be? What would it do? What would you call it?
It would be some sort, what I would call it, I'll get to the name after I explain it. It would be some sort of haunted house where when you first go through it, it's going to scare the shit out of you. You're going to go through a bunch of stuff. You're going to have all kinds of things thrown at you. But then towards the end of it, that's when you see the light. And there's going to be some very pleasant things that happen. And there's going to be a shift in the whole environment and around you. And it's going to be that rebirth of coming out the back end with just an amazing experience. What I would call it, I have no idea. But yeah, it would be, the whole cycle of again, what a lot of people may go through with, early on with childhood traumas and things like that, and then working through it, and then slowly, getting to the other side and finding that place of peace and God and spirituality, and coming out the other end, clean.
Yeah. Hey, who knows? If we get enough subscribers and viewers and funding someday, we'll build this place.
There we go, man.
Yeah.
There we go.
In the meantime, we break the cycle here every Thursday at 12:30 p.m. Central Standard Time. You will see guest after guest ranging in all topics of mental health. If you or a loved one is struggling and you need support, feel free to reach out to us at Breaking the Cycle Therapy, located in Hurst, Texas. You can find us all over the internet. You'll also find our contact information in places like the description and the bios. If you like and subscribe, you'll find all that information. We love you. We look forward to hearing from you. Take care.